and good morning to some of you, post-lunch session. By the way, firstly, thanks to adtech as well as Network Play for having us here. And then, firstly, great job, Sandeep. I think he covered the entire gamut of mobile advertising that would probably take me a day to cover. So I think that was well done. So, like I said, mobile monetization and making money on mobile applications, and you'll realize that is a subject that's very close to my heart, something that I live and breathe. And we could literally do a whole day on the subject. So instead of doing everything, I'll try and focus on one or two key areas, which I think are emerging business models like the session talks about. And I'll probably wrap up fairly quickly enough so that we have enough time for questions. All right, let's do this. So firstly, Flurry. I mean, I'm guessing not many people have actually heard about Flurry as a company or what Flurry does. In a simple sense, Flurry is doing to the mobile app ecosystem what, let's say, Nielsen did for TV, Comscore did for the web, and Google did for search, which means we have built an analytics platform. So we basically give a free analytics software to developers who make mobile apps. They integrate it, and then they're able to track how users are using their apps. So that way, as a platform, Flurry has the largest data set on how consumers use apps than any other single entity in the world. To give you some benchmarks, the second biggest player in mobile analytics is Google Analytics, and they are 1/5 our size, or they're 1/5 amount of data that we have in terms of actual app usage. In terms of big data, on a daily basis, we track 3 times the amount of data that, say, a Twitter tracks. So, it's a massive data problem. If there are about 1 million apps out there on iOS and Android, and about 200,000 of them use our software. And then just to wrap it up, the last one, that 99% penetration, which means almost every single iOS and Android device in the world will have at least one app running that is using Flurry software. So we can track a lot of people. Probably most of you over here if you have an iOS and Android phone. And what we've done, using the data and all of that is basically build a mobile advertising platform on top. So as you can imagine, we work with about a lot of companies across the globe on a lot of different solutions ranging from advertising to freemium. So, we'll try and talk about a bit of that in this session. Okay, so again, some data, stats, gyan that, we'd like to all share. Mobile application market, how big is it? I think Sandeep hit it pretty close. We think it was 46 billion downloads is what he said. By our estimates, 50 billion downloads this year of mobile applications. These are the numbers per month. So as you can see, July was about 5 billion downloads in that month, and then April was about 4.2. So if we keep at this rate, we'll hit about 50 billion app downloads globally. So across the globe, people will download 50 billion apps. Now, again, these numbers are great, but think of it from a very macro perspective. If there are 6 billion people in the world, each person is downloading 8 apps in the year. Right? So probably the biggest opportunity ever. The topic of the session, where's the money? So this is basically a study that we had done about 3 months back, so a little dated, and numbers have changed a little bit. But if let's say a developer or a company makes $1 on the iOS platform, right? Then comparatively for the same app, they'll make about 89 cents on the Amazon store, and at that time 23 cents on Google Play. So one of the challenges that Google and Android and the Google Play ecosystem has been facing is how do you retain developers because they can't make enough money out of it. This is obviously changed over the last 3 months. I think Android has made a lot of efforts, like they've opened up in-app purchases in more countries. They've opened up developers to sell apps in more countries for the mobile app ecosystem in terms of advertising. So this will improve, but even then, it's not even close. iOS is by far way ahead in terms of amount of revenue you can generate, and this includes everything. It includes if you're selling the app as paid, if you're doing advertising, if you're doing the virtual goods model. So all things put together. So I wanted to particularly focus on this freemium. We hear a lot about freemium. Sandeep touched upon it. And everyone talks about what freemium is. So I was looking, okay, firstly I wanted to define and clarify what freemium is. So like all things good in life, I found the perfect definition on Wikipedia, right? So freemium is a business model by which a product or service is provided free of charge, but a premium is charged for advanced features, functionality, or virtual goods. So a very simple definition that, I explained to my mom and she said, yeah, I sort of get it. So, I think this was very well put for a layman, where essentially what we do is you give the thing away for free, right? And then after that, you sell anything inside it. You basically, a game developer could sell what we call virtual goods. So in case of, let's say, Farmville, that could be, crops or fertilizers. In case of, Times of India, it could potentially be a subscription service, though Times doesn't do it, but let's say New York Times, right? They do subscription service per month. In case of Pandora, it could be subscription as well as, limited content, which means premium content. So I'm purchasing certain albums, purchasing certain tracks. The word comes from, the free and the premium, and that basically, the world has given this name freemium. And I particularly want to focus on this when it comes to making money on mobile. So the rise of freemium. So why has that become more important on, say, mobile or mobile apps than it was before, let's say, on the web? The first thing is that in the history of businesses, at least in my generation, I have never seen a distribution platform like what the app stores provide you today. I could sit in any part of the world and sell to any customer in any part of the world. I don't know which other business can do that. To give you an example, at Flurry, we have, as part of our ad network, for the longest time, our biggest publisher making money off advertising was a person based in Estonia. The first time I heard about it, I had to look it up on the map where Estonia is, so I can find out what time zone he is and call him. But that's an example, right? You could literally be two guys sitting in a room and making tons of money from any part of the world. So because of this distribution platform that's available, you will obviously have a lot of competition. You will have a lot of entrants, right? Google obviously doesn't restrict anyone. There's no review process, so you can just upload the app and you're set. Apple is, they have a review process, but you can, it's not like they reject everything. They have certain rules, but again, anyone can build a product and put it on the store in the shelf, right? In any brick and mortar businesses, you can't do that. You have to negotiate with the shopkeeper, right? Here, you have a platform that's ready to use. So because of that, you'll find, there's a lot of free content available. So, which is why, the second point over there that, unless you're like Electronic Arts building FIFA 2013, or you're, Activision building Call of Duty, or, a solid brand that has, some presence and some real brand value, there is always going to be a free alternative for a solution. And I can guarantee that. I mean, I really would want someone, there are maybe one or two exceptions who, as a straight up paid product, as a new brand, have actually done well. But besides that, literally every time you'll find there is a free alternative. And when it comes to mobile, you sometimes think about it that what does it take to pay 99 cents? It's 49 rupees. But psychologically, that means like it's like 10,000 rupees or something. I don't know. People just refuse to pay. It is, the top out of the top 25 grossing apps which the App Store displays. I remember back when I started looking at the market in 2009, it was about, I think, out of those, 20 used to be paid, and 4 or 5 used to be free with like in-app purchases. Come 2012, the only apps that are paid and the top grossing are like GPS apps, which is like 2 apps. The remaining 23 are all free apps that are making money through selling in-app content. So, there is always going to be a free alternative, so you have to give it free initially to get the users. And that brings me to the third point, that it is the easiest way to get scale, to actually attract users to your app. If you ask someone to pay, obviously, they're going to be like, all right, should I spend money on this or not? But if you're giving someone something for free, right, they're much more likely to try it. And then let's see what you make out of it, but at least much more likely to try it. And once you have the users, then of course there's multiple ways of sort of monetizing them, right? So advertising, we talked about the microtransactions, virtual goods, and usage behavior, which is basically measuring, let's say, how people are using these apps and then strategically making money out of it. To my earlier point that paid apps will only be successful for a true IP, a true brand. For example, Telenav, which is a very big GPS maker in the United States, they're selling their apps for like $4.99 for 3 years, but they're making a lot of money out of it because everyone trusts Telenav. They have a unique technology that it's very difficult to replicate. They have patents, right? So unless you're creating something like that, I mean, the model has to be give it away for free, and then figure out how to make money after that. So again, the one thing about freemium is that you almost need to be like a data junkie. It's like Sandeep pointed out, you need to fall in your product development, right? You basically acquire a user, and then you measure every single thing out of it. You measure where they're clicking, what they're clicking on, what segments are clicking. Are males clicking more? Are females clicking more? What age groups? There was last year a comment by one of the Zynga mobile guys saying that we're actually an analytics company which is masquerading as a games developer. But basically almost all of what they do in their offices is literally analytics. I mean, they have teams of like 50 people analyzing what crops you're buying, how many poker chips you're spending, when you lose a hand, how does that affect your psychology and all of that. So the freemium model totally depends upon you measuring every single action item inside the app itself. So the premium is basically you sell it, I gave away 1,000 units for $1, I made $1,000. The freemium is more like a service, and the holy grail in measuring over there is what we call the ARPU, average revenue per user, right? So you basically look at, let's say, okay, out of advertising I made $1,000, out of in-app purchases I made $2,000, so let's say $3,000 across my entire active user base. What does that average come out to, right? The product literally is completely, an analytics game. Let's see. So, this was again a study that we did few months back, but this still holds true. So what we are looking at over here is basically among the users who are actually paying for in-app purchases, right? Among the people who actually pay to buy goods or subscriptions, yada yada, the average transaction size is about $14. And this is a global figure, so I'm guessing India will be a little lesser, obviously, and we haven't achieved that kind of scale in India. But globally, the average transaction size is about $14, which means every single time I buy something, I'm spending $14. That might seem high, and the first time I looked at this, I was like, this is not possible. But you look at this, the right side of the graph, there is a certain small segment that is actually purchasing like $100 worth of virtual goods per month, or like they're spending like over $50 regularly on buying some kind of content that they want to. So because of which it sort of skews it. But the average like you can if you had to look at the median, that would probably fall in the $1 to $5 range. But that indicates basically the willingness of a consumer to spend on these transactions, right? And again, the reason behind this is and the reason why we see more people spending on mobile than, let's say, they spent on the web before was because, again, it's so easy to spend money. Your credit card's already on it, right? I mean, it takes basically just buy and you're done. And that one-click payment, which is on iOS and Android, to a certain extent, but Android's still working on it, makes it much easier to just buy stuff. So that way, the new app ecosystem has done a great job in basically reducing the barriers to make people pay. So all of that makes, for a medium or for a platform where you can generate significant revenue if done right. So again, thank you, Wikipedia. But a lot of people have thought that, okay, freemium is like a games thing, and typically only games make money out of it. There are about 10 or 12 apps that are successfully monetizing that are not games, right, through a freemium channel. Obviously, some of them are marquee brands like Pandora, Skype, but then there are others like CBS has this. CBS is a US TV station. that has this app called CW, which basically broadcasts some of their content. And even in that case, you have to basically, they've literally implemented the virtual currency model, where you don't actually buy individual shows, but you buy points. Once you have the points, you redeem them to buy shows. So it's like a game. People love playing that game, right? Then Spotify is another good example. YouTube is still free, but they are also experimenting with premium content and how they could basically monetize it in a sort of more transactional manner rather than just from advertising. Let's see. So, and a lot of new business models. Like I was talking to a developer. I was recently back in San Francisco talking to a developer who's building a news app, right? And the model behind that was that it's a free app, right? No advertising inside it, but basically users can buy points and redeem those points for premium content. And let's say, for example, ESPN.com has ESPN Insider that gives you like special articles from noted journalists. Similarly, what he wanted to do was get, let's say, Wall Street Journal content or New York Times content. You can buy it if you want with points, but otherwise the app is free to use. Another note on the freemium. So, a lot of people often ask, what is the percent of people that actually end up purchasing? So if you go back to the previous slide, which was this thing, that the paying user, what is the percent out of the entire user base? It's not very large. Only about 3 to 5% of your user base will actually end up spending, typically. So the larger percent of your user base will be those freeloaders. Free mein hai, keep using it, right? But the 3 to 5% will convert. But what we've seen is that even if the 3 to 5% do convert, that's enough revenue at this price to build a sustainable business. Got over that. Okay, I have about 2 minutes, so I'll quickly touch upon mobile advertising. Obviously, we are a mobile advertising network, a mobile advertising platform. We do all the stuff that PubMatic was talking about as well. This is actually research that we literally did 5 days back. So I'm glad I can share this with you, which is basically out of all revenue generated by iOS and Android apps, everything, paid apps, subscriptions, in-app content, advertising, what was the breakdown in 2011 and where do we see it in 2012? So the advertising pie is increasing. People are making more money through advertising now than they used to before. I think this is a very natural progression of any new media. People, marketers, brand advertisers are understanding mobile better. They are willing to pay more on mobile, and they're willing to actually participate in mobile advertising. Along with that, we have better advertising solutions on mobile now. For example, we touched upon rich media, video advertising. So all of these sort of experiences make it much easier for a given publisher to make money, which is what we are seeing, that the advertising pie is increasing. Coming to the India-specific story, this is probably more close to like 55% in terms of advertising money, because India no one pays. It's pretty clear as of now. Whether that will change, we don't know. In fact, I think that advertising pie is going to keep increasing because as you get cheaper devices out in the market, and let's say disposable income of those users is even lesser, so they'll be even lesser prone to pay. So advertising is going to be the model for developers building India-specific content to monetize successfully. This is similar to a lot of the other stuff that people talked about in the last 2 sessions, which is, okay, how do you sell your ad space? I have bunch of ad space to sell. I have like my banner ad. I have different kinds of ads. How do you sell it? We've touched upon ad networks, so you participate, with ad networks. The most common ad network is basically someone, who has direct relationship with advertisers. They'll get you the advertisers, but you'll typically see that partnering with a single ad network generates, relatively lower revenue. Supply-side platforms, which is basically what PubMatic is, but for mobile. So you have a combination of ad networks that you're using, and then you also have the option to sell something on your own directly to advertisers, which is the last part, which, supply-side platforms provide you the ad-serving technology as well whenever you want to sell something through your own sales team. And then this is ad types. We touched upon it. You have static ads, which is standard banner. You have roadblock ads, and now rich media is basically something that's getting very popular. Rich media is something that IAD first invented. IAD is Apple's version of the mobile ad network, which is basically you click on an ad, and then a video opens up, and then you look at the whole video, and then you can actually play around inside it. So it's almost like an app within an app. And we are seeing great demand for these type of ad units now, so that's picking up. And since I'm up on time, summary, freemium for all. So we truly believe that freemium is the way to go when it comes to mobile monetization, unless to the last point you have something that's very unique to offer or a brand to offer. As you can see by the image, it's really a science making money. Keep basically measuring, monetizing, and that's essentially the formula behind it. And smart advertising. By that, you want to put ads where you know there is ideal time, right? You know that there is someone who's spending some time in the middle over there where there's more likelihood to click. And people are staring at me, so I'm going to cut this. Thank you.